Okay, welcome to the final episode of Supercoach Reviews by the Dog. This is the last episode for eternity, dare I say it, and there's a reason for that. The reason is this. That right there. What's that? Tell you what it is, it's absolute dog shite. Not a swear word shite. So let's get into the big finale. The thing everyone's been waiting for. Not really, but here it is. $13 is on the line because of my potty mouth. Something that we wanted to rectify. And I think we came out like a bull out of the gate. About $6 in the first video. You thought, oh mate, I'm definitely happy I'm subbed because I've got a chance at winning potentially 6 times at that point, maybe 10 more videos to go. It's probably more than that, but I wanted to use 10, so I could say $60. That's pretty good. But no, it actually ended up being $13, a bit measly, but hey, that's not bad for just giving a little bit of a clickety-click. And these are the guys. So there was 10 people that could have come out victorious, but unfortunately they didn't make their subscriptions public. So sorry fellas, you didn't quite cut the mustard. So we got these 4 strapping young lads, or ladettes, you never know. Tasbay, that's pretty unisex. Who knows who that is? Could be anyone. It could be the rightful owner of $13 coming up right now. The big finale. Here we go. We're going to draw the winner. How long? Let's see. How can I make this go for a long time? Settings. All right. Let's do a countdown of 5 seconds, I should say. Here we go. $13 on the line. Let's draw the winner. Who's it going to be? One of them. They're winning $13. The winner is James C. Oh, yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. A worthy winner. He gets $13. Oh, mate. You see, now the interesting thing is when you start a YouTube channel, sometimes, not all the time, just depending on how desperate and embarrassed you are, you end up with someone who you already know subscribing to your channel because they want to show some friendly support and things like that. And can't say I couldn't be more grateful, and $13 doesn't go nearly enough of a way for me to show my appreciation for how much I love this guy, James C. So we'll be in touch, mate. $13 coming your way, and the least I could do. Thanks for your support, mate. And everybody else as well, even those guys that didn't get a shot at the raffle. Sorry, there's not really any way. I don't know who you are, so I couldn't put you in there. But yeah, thank you so much. Means a lot. It's cool. It's just cool seeing it grow. I think that it will eventually get to a spot that's quite substantial. And this was my foot in the door. Started with something that I thought, it'll be fun. Not a big audience, I knew that. And to have a very, very small amount of that audience come and watch, it's pretty cool. So, nevertheless, couldn't return the favor with some epic results. I was hoping to have more of a epic journey, like if I went top 1,000 or top 100 and had like a really fantastic season, it would have been a bit of a different kind of ride. But whatever. Top 6%, totally dog shit. Never gonna make these videos again, primarily because of how terrible the scoring was for me, and I've got no one to blame but myself, as well as these bums. So Sicily, not a bum, he did pretty good. I traded out Sinclair to Brayshaw. I presumed Sinclair was going to get tagged. He didn't. Brayshaw went 83. I was like, I should have gone Dawson. Dawson actually went worse than that, so who really cares? But yeah, Sinclair went 115, so should have just held on to him. And then Walsh was a laid out. So it got to the point of not really caring enough to do the smart decision. And obviously the correct decision would have been to wait for Sam Walsh to be injured, or wait for an injury to occur, and then I would have traded him out probably for Jack Steele, and I think Jack Steele went like 125 or something like that. So lost 50 points, but at this point it just is virtually meaningless, so who really cares? Todd Goldstein should not be in anyone's team if they want to be competitive, but he was too funny for me not to choose him. I mean, it's Todd Goldstein, for goodness sake, and if he has even a semblance of relevance then I will be choosing him all day, every day, because he's so hilarious. I think his contract runs out this year, although they didn't give him the retirement, what do you call that? The retirement plaudits or whatever. So maybe he's going to go around again. I don't know. Or otherwise, you might expect him to announce his retirement in the off season or something. Maybe he's one of those guys who wants to do it privately, or we'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind him going to a new team and even playing as a second ruck. You know what? Maybe even like Western Bulldogs or something. They love a second ruck. Melbourne, they love us to have a second ruck. He would actually be a really cool option if Luke Jackson leaves. Todd Goldstein coming in just for a year, whatever. He's still obviously got it. Like 93.2 for someone who was playing ruck virtually 50% of the time for the whole season, even after Sherry got injured, is nothing to be scoffed at. So anyway, fuck gold. See, that's the Supercoach gods literally stopping me from even trying to say something mean about this guy. So Toddy, you're the man. Don't know what I was talking about. All right. Is there anything else that matters? I don't really think so. We don't have vice captaincy. We don't have captaincy. We've got the finals not this week, but the next week coming up. And what are the teams? So it's going to be Richmond versus Brisbane on the Thursday. Now, Richmond are going into that game as favourites. And when I think to myself about that game, I think that Brisbane are going to win easily. They're at home. I think they're even playing at the Gabba, right? They must be. So Brisbane were like top 4 shoo-ins until sort of the last few rounds of the season. The amount of bias that goes into recency, I guess that's why they call it recency bias, is too much. And just because Melbourne spanked Brisbane, Melbourne are the real deal, and they had Brisbane's number when they've already played earlier in the season. It wasn't the most difficult mental obstacle for them to overcome, and they put it on them, and they kind of, put them to the sword. It wasn't too difficult for Melbourne. Brisbane are still a very, very good team. Richmond are not. Maybe Dusty comes back and changes the makeup of the team or provides some energy, but he's not been playing enough to really have that sort of an impact, in my opinion. But I'd never write off Dusty at the same time. Nevertheless, the fact Richmond are favourites against Brisbane, to me, is baffling. Brisbane will win that game, in my opinion, handedly. It's an elimination final, so maybe that gives a little bit of an edge to Richmond because of how successful they've been in the past. Particularly when people haven't actually expected them to win, they have come through with the goods, and they have that sort of steely nature to them, whereas Brisbane are sort of known for choking a little bit. Other than that, though, I think Brisbane, it's just too easy for them to win, in my opinion. I think they're just going to beat them. It's at the Gabba, dude. Anyway, that's an easy one, in my opinion. Make some money there, probably. What have we got next? I think the next game, I don't know if it's the next game or not, but I believe it's Melbourne versus Sydney. And Melbourne is the favourites to beat Sydney. However, I think Sydney will verse Melbourne at the SCG. Am I right about that? Sydney did win. Let's have a look. Let's just go... bugger. Not there. Okay, I'm going to have to type this one in. AFL. Oh, brilliant. It comes up with team lineups. Not this week. The season's over. The season is over. Okay. I believe it's at the SCG, but I don't want to be wrong about that because it does sort of matter. Mum speaks out. That's pretty funny. I might check that out, actually. It's actually at the MCG. I thought I heard Max Gorn say a new venue. But I was actually at this very fixture earlier in the season, Melbourne versus Sydney, and Sydney came over the top of them to win the game. It was actually a really fantastic game. The Sydney supporters were up and about. They were loving it. It was the game where Max Gorn went like 190-something in Supercoach, but it was to no avail, and they ended up losing Melbourne. So Sydney, I don't think they're going to win it, but I think that they have shown considerable improvement. And I don't think many people would have expected them to come third for the whole season. And they are a sneaky chance. I mean, every single person in this top 8, I really wish Carlton made it, to be honest. I feel like Carlton were... I mean, think about the match that Carlton and Melbourne had 2 weeks ago, and Melbourne are the favourites to win the whole thing, right? Or virtually equal with Geelong. So Carlton would have been a really exciting addition to have in the final series. Absolutely gut-wrenching that they lost in basically the last minute to Melbourne. That was even worse, I think, than last week losing to Collingwood in the last minute also. They had a chance. All they needed was a point as well. So brutal. If you're a Carlton fan, man, I felt for them. But at the end of the day, it's about entertainment, and it's about being on the edge of your seat and being like, whoa, the scenes and all that. So in terms of that, they gave what they could have possibly given to us 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if we would have been able to get that level of entertainment out of Carlton if they had just made the elimination final and lost to who they would have versed. They would have versed Fremantle. Let's say Fremantle beat them handedly. They're playing at Optus Stadium, and it's like, oh, cool. Was it all worth it? Not really. So instead, Bulldogs play that role, and they'll probably be beaten by Fremantle. But you never know. Elimination final, though, just adds such a level of sauciness to the contest. And it's like, go hard or go home. And you know that every team's going to try to bring it, and the outcome is just catastrophic for the loser. So, and glorious for the winner. It's just awesome, man. That's the beauty of finals, and that's why sporting leagues that have finals are, they're the best. They're the best. You go for the entertainment. You go for the epic days and the epic nights. You can have it in a basically I'm referring to the English Premier League where they don't have a final series, and you can have those epic moments like we did last season, super epic. And the fact that they come around less often makes them even more intense. And it also gives an element of every single game of the actual season is in a way a mini final, or at least there's a lot more importance on it, because you don't just have to make the top 8 or in some cases top 4 to give yourself a really good chance to win the whole thing. You have to win every single game or thereabouts to win the whole thing. So it adds a lot of emphasis to every individual game. So I don't know why I just said the final series is where it's at. Now I'm saying that the league is actually pretty awesome when it's that format. But at the end of the day, everyone likes a World Cup final. Everyone likes a Super Bowl. Everyone likes an AFL Grand Final. It's epic. It's super epic, man. And it's an epic day, and that's what it's all about. And it's like the glory happens on that one day and that one moment. And it's cool to kind of be able to get that every single year as opposed to once every 20 years or whatever it is for the English Premier League or other formats like that. Nevertheless, back to Sydney. Don't see them winning, but they are better than we all thought, probably. And we'll see what they can do. They've got a young team. They'll probably win a flag the way their team's set up at the moment in the next 5 years. Maybe something like that, but probably not this year. And then the next game we have will be Geelong and Collingwood. I mean, the top 4 games just don't really matter nearly as much. They're still epic because both teams come to play, which is what makes it so awesome. But they don't have nearly as much riding on them as the elimination finals, and obviously the next 2 games coming up the following week, with the loser and winner of the respective matches. So Geelong, Collingwood, I'd say my pick for the flag is Geelong. Now, Geelong have a long history of being favourites and not delivering, not being able to convert their success in the minor premiership to the post-season. And I think that this will be the year that changes. The reason I say that is because I draw on the experience that we had last year with Melbourne. And what I saw from Melbourne last year was a team that, when in the face of adversity, was able to dig deep and will themselves to victory. So when they were getting the rough end of the stick, Melbourne last year, they were able to push through it and win what, in my opinion, in that circumstance, is a most powerful mental battle, and come away with victory. And in some cases, clutch victory from the jaws of defeat. Now, I feel like Geelong have managed to do that this year. I feel like whenever they've been in a tight tussle, a tight contest, and you could say actually Collingwood are the ones who have done this the most, in which case you'd probably be right. But I think against the top opposition, Collingwood have done it against like terrible opposition as well as good opposition, but Geelong have just dominated terrible opposition and then done it against the good opposition. So I think when the going's gotten tough for Geelong, I've seen them stand up, particularly the likes of Jeremy Cameron. He's been like a clutch player. And I like the addition of Tyson Stengel. And he got all Australian, even though it sort of seems like he's going under the radar. But yeah, for me, it's Geelong. I think that when two teams butt heads and you need to dig deep and the going gets tough and you need the little things to go your way, I believe it's a mental thing. You need to will it in your own mind for it to occur in your favour. And Geelong is the team that I think is best poised to achieve that based on what I've seen this season. Melbourne last season were able to do that. However, this season they had the Stephen May controversy where he beat up Jake Melksham. And I feel like you can't just get over that easily. They do seem to be a tight unit and have had a couple of really good games coming into the finals. And you could say they are the best poised. In fact, that's what the odds makers would say. However, for mine, they're not as strong as they were last year. And I will base my opinion on not the last 2 weeks, but the season as a whole up to this point. And for me, it's Geelong. Apart from which, Geelong has still been really good leading into the finals. So that's my little wrap up on the final series and how I see it sort of going. Yeah, I don't see Bulldogs really having a chance. I think Brisbane have a chance. Collingwood, if I had to put it in order, I'd say Geelong, Melbourne, Collingwood, Sydney. No, I take it back. I'd actually say, and this will be controversial, but this is the truth. I'd say Geelong, Melbourne, Collingwood, Brisbane, Sydney, Richmond Bulldogs. That's my order for the top 8. And we'll see what happens. Maybe I get it, maybe I don't. Who knows? That is embarrassing. But who cares? And what have we got? Anything else? Well, at least we've got NRL on this week. We obviously don't have the AFL. And what you want when you're strapped for some epic sport to watch is a fiery, important contest. And that's what we're getting tonight. Brisbane Broncos versus the Parramatta Eels. And the last time they played, it was a blowout. I think the Broncos dominated the Eels, if I remember correctly, and it wasn't like a close game, and it was a whatever. But this time, I would say the Eels are probably favourites, as well as the Broncos actually need to win really bad. Can you imagine? The Broncos have had a really good season after probably 2 years of just being absolutely dog shit. That's what they've been. They've been like a bottom 2 or 3, maybe 4 type of side. And this year, they've been top 4 for the majority of the year. It's been a resurgence. It's been a resurrection for the biggest team in the NRL. Now, wouldn't it be hilarious and just classic Broncos of the last 2 years for all of that hope and prosperity that they have been able to garner to just fall at the wayside because they're actually kind of shit. Now, that's not necessarily my prediction, but I wouldn't, speaking back to that entertainment, I wouldn't mind seeing it. So the Raiders need to win their last 2 games, and they've got the Sea Eagles and the West Tigers. Now, West Tigers, you might say easy money. Sea Eagles have injuries galore, and also very winnable for the Raiders. If the Raiders win both their last 2 games and Brisbane lose their last 2, then they're going through. Now, Brisbane have Parramatta tonight, so it's a huge game, and it's like one of the only games in the NRL that actually has significant relevance to the makeup of the finals, and that's what makes it really exciting. So I'll be watching that. We'll see what happens. I haven't looked at the teams, but I presume they're both probably at full strength. They'd certainly want to be. And then Brisbane next week have the Dragons. So Dragons, it's not a certainty, particularly with all that pressure if they lose tonight, which I predict that they probably will. Anyway, that's a really cool game to watch. Congratulations to James C. on 13 sweet dollaroonies. And yeah, that's it for Supercoach. I might make a little video if I can be asked to do it, of all of the super sweet calls that I made, like including, for example, last week when I said that rant about Leon Edwards beating Kamaru Usman. That's obviously aged very well. Heaps of calls I made about, I said Tim English isn't actually as good as what people think he's going to be. That was after the West Coast game, and if you have a look at his scoring, he scored like 160 that game, never came close to it since. I don't know, there was a lot, so we'll see. Obviously there's a lot that I tried to pick, like Todd Goldstein and Jack Crisp, that were terrible, but in counterbalance to that, there was a few that were really, really epic. So maybe I'll go through and pinch them out and see how much of like a Supercoach Nostradamus I was, or perhaps I go, hey, look, you were aiming for 1K, you scraped into the top 10K. That's humiliating. This will be the final Supercoach video ever for a good reason, and perhaps you're no Nostradamus at all, and you should stay in your lane, bud. Anyone can sort of, go and pick out all those little gems when they tried to, make all of these predictions, when who knows what percentage were actually accurate. Although there's some really good ones in there. There is some good ones. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for the season. It was a pretty fun ride, I guess, overall. There were ups and downs. It was really that last bye round that just killed my season. But I think next season, if I had to say what I've learned, it's okay. This is actually some good Supercoach philosophy right here. So maybe I'll be cutting this in the future when this proves out to be right. We'll see about it. Anyway, this is the thing about this year. So there was a lot of players this year that were like really popular choices, underpriced. It was almost like if you made if a noob came in and played Supercoach for the first time, then they could have done really well, right? Patrick Cripps priced at $450. Hell yeah, I'm gonna pick him. Paddy Cripps, I know him. I've heard of him before. I'll put him in my team. James Sicily, oh yeah, I've heard of that guy. I'll put him in my team. He's 400 cool, And they turn out to be the best starting picks or thereabouts in the game. So I think it played into the hands of someone with little experience, and it also was a season unlike others where there was just incredible value. Stephen Cornelio, Brody, Witts, players like that, and your higher value picks who typically would be stalwarts, just set and forget, as we say, didn't deliver like we would have typically expected. Jack McRae, Jack Steele, Max Gawn, Brodie Grundy. If you had to pick these guys for the last 4 years, they're the best picks in the game and you just don't have to worry about them. But this year, that just was not the case. And then you had just incredible scoring and defense with Dawson and Sinclair. And then you had, things that were just like old times. Short being shit. Bailey Dale being a disappointment. Angus Brayshaw being up and down and crap, even though it looks like he's coming of age. But no, he's getting the AFLPA Player of the Year. So that's pretty cool. But in terms of Supercoach, no, he's just like he's always been. He's a disappointment. And who's the other guy that I'll never pick again? Brayshaw, Dale, Short. I'll never pick Crisp again, that's for sure. But I think, was it just those four? I think it's just those four. Hall, never pick Hall again. Steele, I don't know about Steele. He's been a little bit, not too sure, but he'll be underpriced next year. Probably be looking at McRae and Steele next year. And it's like, bro, did you not just hear yourself speak? So, not looking good for next year. That's all I can say. We'll see what happens though. It's going to be so difficult not to pick Whitfield, Steele, and McRae. And it's like, wow. I started with those guys this year and how'd that turn out for you, bud? Yeah, top 10k. Yeah, terrible. Nevertheless, I do think that in the future, it'll probably revert back to old times, which was like, pick your guys that you know are going to be super, super good and you aren't going to have to trade them out, right? So you want to, like with your starting team, you want to pick, I don't know what it is. I can't remember the number, 10, 11, 12, something like that. Players that you're never going to have to trade out, right? The best, they're almost guaranteed to be best in their line, right? That's how you would typically have played Supercoach. But this year it was all backwards. And essentially the people that went for value got a massive head start and it was impossible to catch up to them. It wasn't impossible like 9,663 impossible, but it was impossible like trying to breach the top 1k, top 500 sort of thing. So I think it'll revert back to what we're used to next year. You'll still have like a few players that get into super good form and it's like, oh, I'm going to jump on them and they're actually going to help you boost, I guess, ahead of people financially. That's never going away. But in terms of, I think, the starting team being full of such good value, like a Cornelio, a Brody, a Witts, a Cripps, and a Sicily, as like 5 keepers for the entire season, that's just, I think those days are not going to happen again, or at least not for a long time, but hey, we'll see. So that's my little nugget of Supercoach predictions, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I hope that you had an absolutely epic season yourself, and even though it went terribly in the end, it was still pretty sweet to sort of, make some moves and try to, what I like about it is it's creative and you get to do what you want to do. It's your canvas and you get to draw whatever team that you want. Because at the end of the day, you're the one sitting there watching the games and being like, hell yeah, I really like watching this guy, or this guy's annoying me because he's doing terribly, or I don't have this guy and he's doing well. I'm going to need to pull my hair out and that sort of thing. And basically what you want to do is you want to create this combination of players that maximizes your enjoyment whilst you're watching, right? So it's like, pick Rory Laird, dude. Pick Jordan Dawson, dude. Pick Tom Stewart, you know what I mean? Players that's just like, sweet. Look at those guys just rack up the points every single week without fail, So, yeah, and then you get to, pick a few people that are a bit left field that you think, oh, yeah, maybe, and then Todd Goldstein goes 120, 130, and it's elation, and then he goes 50, and you're like, oh, I hate him, and that's what Supercoach is all about. So, the thing that's really cool about it is, you're the one in charge, man. You get to, paint your picture, and it's your combination of players that you think are going to be the best and the ones that you like to watch the most. And in a weird way, the ones that you hate to watch when you don't have them, right? So it's, you just got to find that balance and try to figure it out, man. And eventually there's players that you just remember, I'm never going to go near them again. Like your Bailey Dales, your Shorts, your Crisps. McRae was disappointing this year. I tip him to come back next year. He's not going to like that he didn't get an All-Australian, I don't think. Beveridge might have something to say about that with the CBA shit fuckery, but we'll see. See, I can swear now that the jar's not there. Nah, just kidding. I am going to taper off on that, and I've done a good job. So, a little pat on the back for me over here. Nevertheless, we'll see what happens next year. It was fun. I liked the increase in the trades. I liked the DPP being updated. It just gave it a little bit more dynamism, a few more avenues to exploit, and that's kind of cool, and it was fun. Next year I'm going to go super aggressive and probably go for value. I probably won't make videos given my torrid season this year, but looking forward to seeing what happens next year. Obviously I just said exactly the opposite of what I expect to happen, but if you are going to win, then that's what you got to do, man. You need to kind of have luck on your side in some respects, and go for the jugular if you want to win, right? You can't just play it safe if you want to come first. So next year, this year I was like, okay, top 1K, play safe, and I should get there. Not the case. So, next year I'll probably go crazy, man. Go crazy. I'll still probably go Dawson. Laird is going to be a bit of a tough one. He's going to be so expensive, but you're going to need to get him. And it's like, that dude was not coming down. He got a 93. Maybe he would have started to come down a little bit if there were more games this year. But tell you what, maybe even Tom Lynch, man. Let's have a look at this guy for a shout next year. What did he average? He averaged 94.3, but I reckon it almost all came at the end of the season. Whoa, look at that. But that must have been some sort of injury or something. But that is tight. So even with that 3, he's got a 5-round average of 107.8. That's nutty. He's got some big old scores in there, doesn't he? Look at that for Tom Lynch. Probably definitely not going to go for him, but 94.3 is not a bad average for a forward. But nevertheless, let's wrap it up. Hope you did well. Hope you had a stellar season. Hope you did better than me, that's for sure. It was fun, bumps along the way. That's typical of Supercoach. It was a pretty sweet season. Every season is defined by certain things, certain players, and you probably never even think about them again after this season. Like, are you going to pick Stephen Caniglio in the midfield next year? No, you're not. Brody, never going to pick him as a midfielder either. So it's like a lot of players, they have their season in terms of Supercoach relevance and they disappear. And then you've got players that are always going to be there. Your Rory Lairds these days, your Tom Stewarts, your Took Miller. I'm going to pick him next year probably. Clayton Oliver, obviously. Lachie Neale, always going to be up there. Players that have just got that proven consistency. But yeah, the ones that define the season, they're the ones that it's like, all right, kudos to you, brother. You did well this year. Never going to see your face again. Never going to think about you. Not in the Supercoach sense anyway. But thanks for the ride, man. Like Taylor Walker last year, players like that. Jake Bowie had a little bit of relevance this year. It's cool. They get their little moment in the sunshine, the Supercoach sunshine. It shines down on them for a little brief moment in time, and it's cool to sort of be a part of that and remember, oh yeah, that season, I remember Matt Rowell starting him, stuff like that. So anyway, I bid those guys farewell. It was a cool ride. Thanks for joining me on the journey. Hope you had a ripper of a season, whether you did well or not. It's all about the fun at the end of the day, and Supercoach is some ride. But this is me signing off. And Supercoach, be gone. All the best. Cheers, boys.